The Minnesota Wild podcast is presented exclusively by Acrosure.
Well, back here in St. Paul, it's no goals as of yet between Pittsburgh and, of course, the home team, the Minnesota Wild. Right now, joining us is Mike Russo of the Athletic.
No!
And we got some cameras up here that Mike wants. There's one of his pictures being taken, but it's going to be taken anyway, Mike. And your impressions of period number one?
It was a good period, actually. It was fun. Some scoring chances. Flower had some fun moments. Couple of missed nets. Man, Boldy he's got to start scoring. His shooting percentage the last 43 games is 6.8%. He has 10 goals in his last 43 games after 11 in his first 20.
You think he's squeezing that stick just a little bit too much?
How about this thing I just looked up? So in the last 44 games, he has stretches of 17 games and 20, where one he didn't score in 15 games and the other in 18. So he, you just want to, he's got to elevate here. Like, Kaprizov's out. They can't score. He's got to start burying these pucks.
Yeah, we talk about Kaprizov being out, and, of course, when you look at Brodin being out of the lineup, Joel Eriksson out of the lineup, that really puts a stymie, obviously, on the offensive ability of the Wild right now. Yeah. Somebody else has to pick it up, and Boldy has to be one of those guys.
Yeah, Boldy has to be one, and all these guys. They just can't afford. I know it's not his job, but Foligno gets the puck in front of the net and he rushes it, and they just can't afford this. And it's just. There's been too many of those games that we saw in Vancouver the other day where the Wild are, spend 2 full periods essentially in the offensive zone and don't come out with really anything other than the Faber power play goal in the third period. Was really disconcerting when you spend, 16 minutes in the O zone and you have one shift after a TV timeout that they're in their zone and they score. So, right now it's getting hairy. I mean, Calgary and Vancouver are jockeying every day, seemingly winning every game to kind of go back and forth. The Wild are now in the top wild card spot. You certainly don't want to fall to the 8th and have to play Winnipeg in the first round. So they just got to, they're trying to stay with their head above water with obviously all these injuries that they've got right now to Kaprizov, and Brodin. But it's just getting, when you got a waiver pickup on your top line and your trade deadline pickup suddenly playing third line, and it's clearly they're trying to shake some goals out of these guys.
Yeah, and we met in Vancouver, Billy Guerin, the little press conference he had up there, and he was talking about the guys who are out of the line. He'd like to have them back, and there's no question about it. Otherwise, he would have put them on LTI. But he's hoping, I think, that they can come back in time to play at least some games.
Yeah, and then what I meant by my question, are you going to regret this day if they don't come back, is my point is, I think Billy just thought, you want us to give up a bunch of first-rounders and our top prospect for Brock Nelson. So, in other words, do you want us to get, the equivalent of that trade would be a first-round pick in Urov? Obviously not. That's not what I'm saying. But you don't have to spend $9 million if you LTI. You could spend a 4th-round pick on Nico Sturm, a guy that could kill a penalty and win a draw. And that's the only thing is that I was saying is that there were guys out there that weren't big prices that could have helped, and they didn't do it. And so my point is, I get it's not a total science on when these guys are going to be back, but I think that one of these 3, if I had to guess, is going to be. If they come back, it's going to be a game or 2 left in the regular season. So everybody else pulls LTIR or Magic, and my only question is, why don't you guys do the same thing? Because I guarantee you, everything that I'm sensing right now is we're not even going to see Kaprizov start skating until the end of March. And if that's the case, I mean, it took him 3 weeks to play 3 games when he was out the first time before the surgery, and so he's not just going to, after being out 3 months, just practice for a week and then get back in the lineup. So, I just think that there were things that they could have done that day to help this team instead of, they can't win a draw and they can't kill a penalty. And so you add a big right shot 4th liner that's going to bring you a net front presence to the second power play unit in a league right now where there's 1 or 2 power plays a game. And on the Wild, the second unit gets the least amount of ice time than any power play in the league. So, I think there were better needs that day than that. I just think you could have gotten somebody that could have addressed some of the weaknesses that this team has shown, not just lately with the injuries, but all season long, and that's face-offs and penalty killing.
Yeah, and so often when you get to that stage, when it's all of a sudden it's draft day, and what are we going to do, and how are we going to do it, and what kind of money do we have to do it with, and of course, we don't know the inner workings of the general managers, what happens behind the scene,
right,
and what they're talking. And they've got their own plan of attack, and I think for the most part, they stick with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, I'm not in that room. Obviously, Billy knows way more than me and knows what the operations were and what they can and can't do, and
what the cost would be to get a player.
Right? Yeah, what the cost would be, and also it's not my money. If the Wild put one of those guys on LTIR, they still are now spending extra money that they weren't planning on doing. So I don't know what green lights he has from that effect. And the other thing that we have talked about a lot about is that even if Kaprizov wants a runway leading up to the playoffs, and a couple years ago when they played Dallas in the first round, he sustained the hamstring injury, and then he missed 13 straight games, and then he was held out to 2 of the last 4, and he said that in the playoffs that he was very, very rusty afterwards. And I think that probably, from Bill Guerin's perspective, is that he wants to, even if Kaprizov could get 2 or 3 regular season games to ramp himself up for a postseason, if that's what Kirill wants, then that makes a lot of sense. But I think what becomes frustrating is when you see everybody else around you making a bunch of moves, and every other year there's other teams that take advantage of their LTIR space and play games with it at times. And here the Wild have 3 significant pieces that are going to be out indefinitely, as far as we know right now, and they can't find one of those guys to just say, you know what, we're going to sit you out to the playoffs. I think that is the only reason for my questioning the other day. Yeah,
and you look around the league, you look around the Central Division, how these teams have built up. I look at Dallas and what they've done. Look at Winnipeg, how good they have been and what they bring to the table. I look at Colorado. I mean, these teams they're gearing up for the playoffs,
and
they've got the ability to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Colorado, they got out of Middleset's contract and make a big move to get Charlie Coyle in there. I love what they did to get Brock Nelson, and I love what they did to get Ryan Lindgren. I think he's going to help big time and be a thorn in the Wild side. Winnipeg, who's already a tough team at the top of the conference, they go out and add 2 really good pieces in Tanev and Shen, and then obviously Dallas goes out and makes the move for Mikko Rantanen. These are teams that the Wild potentially could play in the first round, although right now it looks like they are in the 7th spot and could stay there. And if that's the case, that would be kind of fun for us selfishly to go play a different team for the, in the playoffs, see Vegas or Edmonton. Edmonton, I would love to see if the Wild could beat them in the first round because they play them so well usually. So we'll see. It just, to me, it was a tough day. And I get, the Wild had all these plans at the beginning of this year to accrue space, and the injuries just derailed everything and made things very tough. But it's hard when you're trying to, make that next step, and then you see the 3 teams in the Central right with you make those big moves.
Well, stay tuned. That's all I can say.
Yep.
All right, Mike, thanks for being with us. Mike Russo, the Athletic, our guest here. Kevin, let's go back to you.
Thank you, Michael, for joining us in the intermission. You'll get a gift certificate down to Tom Reed's Hockey City Pub, right up the street from XL Energy Center on West 7th. It's Tom Reed's Hockey City Pub. 0-0 in St. Paul after 1 period of play. We'll recap the Wild and Pens to this point next. This is Wild Hockey presented by XL Energy.
For an extraordinary advantage in sports, you need a game plan. For an extraordinary advantage everywhere else, all you need is Acrisure. With a high-tech human approach to insurance, cybersecurity, and more, Acrisure helps you take care of what you care about. That makes winning easy. See what Acrisure's extraordinary advantage can do for you at Acrisure.com.